welcome everyone. Well, I'll tell you what, we are awesome to see you all in the chat. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on that, despite the fact that I am all by my lonesome today. Dave couldn't be here, and so but we've had a lot of activity here in Red Canary Land last week. So we're still going to go ahead. I'm going to dive right in, and we've got a couple things I want to cover. So we have two ops insights, and so for those of you who are customers, you probably saw just some really quick emails come out about these, but we've got like additional information kind of forthcoming, and so I just want to kind of hit on both of these things really quickly. Also want to talk to you about some resources that we have coming soon. And I think we'll cover those things hopefully here on office hours, but they're directly related. So we're going to dive into these two topics. Before we do, I want to take it. So for those of you who didn't catch it, we did the initial access webinar. That is now available on demand. So and I should have put a link in here to that, but like you can find it on the website, super easy through the webinars page. And then you could also find the initial access webinar up on YouTube. That was like, if you didn't get a chance to see it, it was absolutely awesome. We had Selena from Proofpoint on. We had some folks from our team. We had Adam from MITRE. So like we had an awesome group. And then tomorrow at 2:00, Bree, who is a member of our team, so she works on the team that does threat response for us. And so she is an amazing resource when it comes to understanding like what ransomware and other attacks look like from like an operations and like incident responder perspective. So like she works with the team who actually like does the hands-on keyboard like response to those things, helps to clean them up. So she's going to do a really cool walkthrough on ransomware, in particular with a particular focus on like how to mitigate those things, like those intrusions as they occur. And then she'll also cover some of the policies that you could put in place to limit impact. So that's huge. 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, if you're around. All right, so moving on. Those of you who have been here before, I feel like I say this every week, that not a week gets to go by without us talking about Paste and Run, also known as ClickFix. So I want to provide a quick update on that. And I think like literally not an hour goes by that I don't get to talk about this. I just walked out of a meeting with one of our customers. And we're talking about the challenges they're having there with a lot of these kind of just like evolving lures. And so, big picture, and I guess just a little calibration for those of you who aren't familiar with this already. So paste and run is a tactic. It's also like it's referred to as ClickFix and or fake CAPTCHA. And that just kind of speaks to like how these things happen and what they look like. But the goal here, it's like it's an initial access tactic. And so it's aimed at tricking users into executing malicious scripts on their endpoints, right? And so in the old world of delivering somebody like an email and hoping they click on that and then visit a website and do these other things, in these cases, like they're taking websites that folks in general are kind of going and looking for. So like how you land there, as you can imagine, like you could still get a phishing email that takes you to one of these websites. You can also just be subject to malvertising, where you go search for like a free PDF viewer or free PDF editing software, and they've just injected this, through SEO poisoning or straight up advertising, land on a page. And the ruse here is that like you get to the page that you think that you want, and it pops up a little overlay and it says, hey, there's a problem with this website, but you can fix it. And so they're just trying to get you to execute some malicious code that then bootstraps and leads to malware, right? So the two are like that ClickFix, which is the that first approach. The other is that CAPTCHA style lore, right? And so they, again, in both cases, they're giving you instructions to prove that you're human and or to fix an error. But the thing they're trying to lure you into doing is running some malicious code. So like this has been insidious. It continues to pick up steam. And I think as fast as we identify like examples and different lures, and I'd say like different means of like getting users to the position where they might be tricked into that, just the adversary is going to keep turning the dial. And so like little bit of an overview of what's changed there. And like there, we've got like, if you are a customer, I think the Intel Insight has like a little bit more information, but like a lot of these things you can go read about in the threat index, and we'll be pushing more there in the near future. Um, so more of the same, right? Because the same thing continues to work, but I'd say the new twists and the things that our intelligence team's been highlighting is additional macOS targeting and reports of Linux variants. And so in both of those cases, right? So the original ClickFix, like the payload, as it were, like the script they're trying to get the user to run, has traditionally been PowerShell based. What you'll see in macOS and Linux, because PowerShell like largely doesn't exist natively in those platforms unless it's been added, is the use of curl in place of PowerShell. So that's what they're trying to trick the user into running. So you can read again, you can read more about these. Like that stuff on the right, I just kind of highlighted, I'd say like some of the common malware families that we're seeing as a result of ClickFix. So like once that script is run, like what is the like eventual payload? And as is the case with almost everything, like on the back end of any one of these, like can be ransomware, right? And so I think that's, 9 times out of 10, that's the adversary's eventual goal. But in this case, we're really focused on like that paste and run, click fix, and fake CAPTCHA lore. Um, and that is, yeah, like Chris there in the chat, that's exactly right. That's what we're seeing. You have these like, you can kind of like pick almost any like search term. I've seen these. I saw an example the other day that was like it was like long-term care insurance, and so like there was a long-term care insurance page that had been like compromised, and when folks were landing there, they were getting one of these click fix examples, and so like some of this, and we'll talk about I'd say like an adjacent example of like the lures that are being used, or I'd say like the search terms that they're going after. But yeah, these things are like super widespread. And so more to come on that from a technical perspective. And we'll kind of we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a moment. One of the things that the team's been doing, and I don't want to give everything away, but we see a lot of this stuff, and it's really useful. I think, obviously like we appreciate the ability to like share the details of these things. So detection strategies, what they look like, and to the extent that we can give people like either static indicators or behavioral indicators that'll help you find them, that's useful. But probably like the most common conversation and like we get asked to have on behalf of like our intelligence, threat hunting, and like our other customer facing teams is just being able to help people like arming people with information they can use to go educate their own organization, whether it's like educating their IT team or their security team or their user base. And so I'm excited to kind of share here in the coming weeks some of these things. And you could see like email bombing campaigns and paste and run that we just talked about are like 2 examples of things we'll have included in there. But inside of the poll question today, like would love for you to tell us like if we can kind of synthesize some of this threat intelligence, some of this incident response and mitigation information, and provide that to you with like in a little bit more of a turnkey like training kind of like resource. What topics, themes, threats would you like to see? So more to come on that soon, but wanted to tease that because I'm super excited. I think our team does an exceptional job just like teaching and educating. And so I think being able to like productize that in the sense that like, give you resources you can take away and use is super exciting. All right. So next, we're going to talk through in this case, and this is like, again, like this is a Venn diagram with a lot of overlap, right? These things that we're talking about. So we're talking about ClickFix, and like one way that you might end up on one of these like ClickFix, fake CAPTCHA, paste and run pages is through malvertising, meaning that like these adversaries are saying, hey, like we're interested in people who are searching for things A, B, and C and trying to lure them in. And so in this case, we like just released a bulletin yesterday related to PuTTY and WinSCP malvertising campaigns. And so in these cases, what's happening is like these things are like users are going and searching for these. So for instance, like you might be looking for a free SSH or SCP client, and they're targeting that. And so what they've done is create, like you could see here, in this case, it's like, just a lookalike of the page where you normally go get putty, right? With some subtle changes. And so they're SEO optimizing that, trying to get you to land on the fake putty page, and what you get when you download putty there. In this case, like the bulletin we put out is CleanUpLoader malware. And notably, like without providing the requested software. And I haven't had a chance to dig in and talk to our intelligence team about this yet. But typically what we see happen is like, if you go looking for a PDF editor, you will get a PDF editor. You will also get malware. And so like, I thought it was interesting they added that note in there, and that like, if you go download putty, and this is I think the putty.fun page that the link there is in the chat to like the Earl scan results. But I find it interesting that if you go do that, like you don't get putty at all. You just get this CleanUpLoader malware, and or something else. And then what you'll see, the follow on there, is some persistence activity. And like in this case, our team's been observing and calling out like scheduled tasks in particular for persistence. And then once that's done, you'll start to notice like other reconnaissance and later stage activity. So yeah, interesting twist here. And I'd say like in this case, well, maybe the other interesting aspect of this, and like this is my own hypothesis, but like these types of tools are going to be used by people in particular with privilege, right? And so if you're going and looking for a tool can be used to SSH into infrastructure or to copy files up to infrastructure, these like the profile for the users of these things is systems administrators, developers, DevOps, things like that. And so like particular insidious kind of like user-based targeting. I pulled out a couple of the things, like I'm just looking at the detection analytics that we're using to find CleanUpLoader. And we've got like a bunch of additional information related to this, and I'm not sure like when and how we'll be able to share or surface it. But I'd say like, as is almost always the case, handful of tried and true techniques that we use to detect CleanUpLoader are used to detect like myriad other pieces of malware and malicious behavior. So in these cases, like the analytics are like run DLL 32, and you'll see that as like a recurring theme here. Used to register a server or register a new DLL. Like this is tough because like I'd say in each of these cases, like there are absolutely legitimate use cases to do these things. Like maybe a little bit less so like a scheduled task with a binary that got dropped in a roaming profile, but they do happen. And so, I say go look for these things, like that's easy, but like that process, like the context is important, right? And so like doing some baselining, our free surveyor tool is awesome for this, right? Just go, like if you're using any major EDR platform, shouldn't say any, if you're using like supported EDR platform, like Surveyor is a fantastic tool for going and saying, hey, I want like all of the run DLL 32 activity in my environment. It kind of flattens that out for you and makes it really easy to see, okay, like 99% of this activity has like consistent process lineage, meaning like the parent and child processes are consistent. It has consistent command lines. And in most cases, like you can run that and see, all right, like I understand 99% of this activity that's taking place. But like sort of like say the guiding principle behind Surveyor, and I'd say like behind like threat hunting in general, is to kind of figure out like those outliers. So like start with the things, like start with the run DLL activity that is rare and see if like that is most rare, right? The things that only happen once or twice or a few times. And then just try to methodically go through and understand those. And like that's where a lot of like this detection comes from, particularly from a hunting perspective. So these next two here, again, related. So like run DLL, like loading a module from a port, like an app data, or like call it honestly, any user writable directory, right? So in this case, we call out app data roaming because I think that's specific to this particular like piece of malware. But anything in app data, right? You should treat with the same level of suspicion. And then scheduled tasks with a binary, where like that actual binary that's going to run on a recurring basis is there. And then there's the standard kind of bolo at the bottom, but like, again, that URL scan URL that we provided earlier is like this particular example. So you can kind of see what that looks like. But I think if you go into like virus total URL scanning, just kind of do some hunting across your network activity for any of these like PuTTY, WinSCP, call it like, I wouldn't be surprised to see this kind of spider out into like other tools like that. Again, in the past, we've seen like PDF editors, file transfer, like this is there's a whole bunch of attack surface there if they kind of exhaust their interest in PuTTY and WinSCP. So keep an eye on that. I'm just going to pop over real quick. I saw a chat, saw a question come in from Christopher. So will these slides be available to distribute? Yeah. So Christopher, awesome question. And I think that is like, we will have like, as always, office hours will be up online. We don't typically distribute the slides. But maybe I could work with the team to see if we can put some of these together. But like most importantly, I think what our intelligence team and like I say, like our broader security operations team is doing is trying to put together exactly what I think you're asking for, which is like a good high level summary of these types of things, but like with a bent on like educational resources, right? So helping you understand from a security standpoint what you should be doing and or an IT standpoint, like what you should be doing to mitigate, but also like some cool, like some specific takeaways, like things you can give to end users and be able to say, hey, like this is precisely like what to look out for. This is like when and why you should be concerned. So hopefully, like in addition to the stuff that we're going to cover here today, I'm excited to see if we can figure out how to just like more broadly distribute some of that educational information. And thank you, yeah, thank you, Susanna, for dropping the surveyor link there. Appreciate that. So that's all we've got for this week. I feel like as usual, like this is it's a pretty short one. It's just me today, so the usual banter didn't fill the time. If there is anybody has any additional questions, like I am obviously like more than happy to stick on here. We'll do feel like we've just gotten good at ending on time, and I'm overachieving this week by ending early. So like hopefully this was useful to you all. I appreciate it. And again, yeah, look out for more to come from us. Like I know we've got a bunch of great stuff stacked up for the blog. Hope to be adding some content to like the threat index and our broader threat detection report here in the near future. And next week here we will have Steph will be back, so she'll be joining us for our monthly Intel Insights. So I suspect that come next week with questions if they're related to these things. That's awesome. But Steph will be running through, as she always does, like things we've seen over the course of the last month. And she'll always do a great job, I think, kind of picking out what we think is like new or notable. And we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive there. Coming weeks, we've got some more of that educational information. We've got Forward Cloud Set coming up here in Denver. So I suspect we'll be covering some like themes, threats, and potentially some of the like takeaways from that. So thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you being here. As always, if you take a second to fill out our post-event survey, particularly since we've given a few minutes back, we very, very much appreciate that. Cheers, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you.